For USCFootball.com, I'm Keely Eure here with Dan Weber. Instant analysis of the Tuesday practice leading up to the Cal game. And this was an injured bunch today. We saw a lot of guys either not at practice or not in pads, some not finishing practice, some kind of doing half of the end of practice. And Helton definitely made sure to kneel the guys down at the end of practice and gave them a little pep talk about, hey, if guys are injured, the next guy's up.
Yeah, I'm not so worried about the injuries, to be honest. I do think that the next guy up worked really well with Christian Rector. Obviously, probably should have been in there a lot sooner. I think Michael Pittman is going to be the next guy up because he's healthy again. So and a guy like Marlon Tuipulotu might be the next guy up, even though he was injured last week. I think the next man up on this team with the recruiting that they've had is probably not the worst thing at all. I mean, every time Stephen Carr is the next man up, you think, okay, I'd throw him the ball. I think we were better off than I thought. I thought Chana, came out and looked like, his couple of injuries weren't that serious. We didn't get to see Stephen Mitchell with his groin, and we didn't get to see Ajene got a knee bump, otherwise, I thought they're in decent shape. I mean, right now, the depth chart basically the same. Although Michael Pittman, I think, is definitely going to start as one of the three wide receivers with Deontay, and I would think Tyler Vaughn's is going to be there, not Stephen Mitchell. So you're going to have two different wide receivers, but not necessarily because of injuries. On defense. Christian Rector has earned himself a spot, so he's out there with Malik Thornton and
Keely Ross for Ajene.
Oh yeah, and I'm trying to think up front. The other one, Josh Patu, will still be there.
Yeah.
I think it's great to throw Keely out there, man. It's he's got everything you would want, and maybe just needs that chance to go out there and play. So. Yeah, that's it's not that big a different look, and if this is the way to get more guys in and get more competition going, that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Like you mentioned, we did see some changes with the wide receivers. Tyler Vaughn was getting first-team reps over Jalen Green. T. Martin actually spent around 40 minutes with the wide receivers one-on-one on the jugs machine, hitting them, trying to bat balls out of their hands. And you actually got to talk to T. Martin after practice about that.
Yeah, he said, we need it. He said, what were you doing, so long? Why were you on the jugs machine, that long? The very obvious question. He said, well, we need it, and we got to catch it. And they basically, T and Tyson, think that the issue really was they catch the ball early, they don't have the drops, they basically have, a couple of touchdown lead. And then there was the short yardage stuff but he said if they execute, they create the kind of separation from Texas that Texas said it was more about them, meaning USC, than it was about Texas. He said we didn't execute, we got to do better. We're just, we got to catch the ball, and it's that simple. I said, you're basically a three wide receiver team. Do you have three wide receivers that you can really depend on? And he said, well, we do when we catch the ball. And I said, well, are you going to catch the ball? Because I said, you were a quarterback. What's it like to throw what is a perfect pass, trying to get in scoring position at the end of the half, and not only does it go right through your receiver's hands, it goes to the, defender who takes it back for a pick six. Instead of you scoring, they're scoring. 14-point swing on a pass that you threw perfectly. And he said, yeah. He said, that can affect you. I said, do you want, if you're talking to the quarterback, do you say, the next time he's in that situation, I want you to throw the ball right there again? Do you really say that? Or do you say, He said, you might go, because you got to have confidence in those guys. And they're trying to, it wasn't a great day at practice catching the ball. They had some good catches. I mean, Tyler Vaughn's, I think, made two really spectacular plays. Joshua Mater, much as he did last week, made a big high point in traffic catch. And then he goes, doesn't even dress Saturday. So we're not completely sure what's going on with the wide receivers, just that something has got to happen. And getting Michael Pittman back is a good start.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting, though, as you mentioned, the coaches kind of lean on the side as far as the Texas defense goes. They said it was more the offense wasn't executing. But hearing from some of the players, some of them said Texas was also really good and showed us things that we necessarily weren't prepared for.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't let the offensive linemen get out of their, when they were pulling or when they had to, block down and what have you. There was some guy from Texas already in the gap. And so, they messed up an awful lot of what they were trying to do. They were beating them to the punch, and they had talked a lot about gap control the week before, but they didn't have it this week. Texas certainly beat them to the punch. It shouldn't have mattered probably if they make enough plays early. The game is in a place where Texas can't do that as much. That they allowed Texas to get all fired up about their defense and keep playing harder and harder. As T said, he's correct. He said they hadn't played like that any time we'd seen, and they hadn't played that hard. Pretty good team, pretty good players. Hadn't played anywhere near that hard. That's USC's fault for allowing them to think they had a real chance to win that game. And the more that game went on, the harder they played. Your offense has to put people away. And right now they're not doing enough things, other than when Stephen Carr is catching the ball or Deontay. They're not doing enough things to make you feel real confident. And then Stephen Mitchell also made a big play. But, they need more people to make plays, and still not having that happen.
Mm-hmm. Well, they will be seeing a familiar face on Saturday. Justin Wilcox, the former defensive coordinator for USC, is now the head coach for Cal. Both Timar and Helton were asked, how familiar are you with what he's done? And they said, we kind of are familiar. There are some new wrinkles, though.
I thought the best answer was somebody said, you keep up with Justin? He said, no, not really. Which I think those of us who are here can completely understand that answer. And Clay said a lot of nice things about Justin. Justin was a 3-4 coach, and philosophically that is not what Clay wanted to do with the defense. So, they had a, parting of the ways at that point in time. And but he said he can tell that Justin, who went to Wisconsin and then has done some things differently. That he said he's not, doing the same things. He can see some different wrinkles in there, and he's got the Fresno State coach who got fired, Tim DeRuyter, who's a really good coach, wasn't so much a recruiter, is his defensive coordinator. So they're like holding teams 20 points a game less than they were last year. So they're a completely different team on defense, and got 3 or 4 guys who can really play on defense. So they're kind of the, surprise team almost in the country. I think the number I saw is there are only 6 teams in the country that are 3-0 with 2 wins over Power 5 teams. Cal's one of them, USC's another. But for Cal to be in that category with wins over North Carolina on the road and Ole Miss at home, that's awfully good for Cal.
And with that said, USC is going on the road for the first time this season. They're a little banged up, like we said. Do you think this has a possibility of being a trap game?
No, not after last week.
Yeah.
No. I'd be shocked. I think the being banged up a little bit is going to help because it's going to force more guys into the game, into the rotation, and I think that's a good thing at this point in time. I don't know what it's taken. They've talked about having a deeper rotation. They've talked about guys in their second years who really understand the defense. It just hasn't happened. So, unless they have a couple of injuries Saturday, I'm not sure Christian Rector gets into the game. So he's into the game now. I think the more that happens, the better. I think the more competition there is, the more guys who are starters don't think, I just got to show up and I'm going to be good to go. I don't think that's the way USC wants to go. So I think that can work in USC's favor this week and next week. I think going on the road is it should be for a good football team. Going on the road should be really a lot of fun. The good USC teams always they'd rather play on the road. They'd rather go beat you in your place and show your fans, to be honest. And so that's we'll see how this team approaches that. But I like the idea of going on the road, playing a couple of unbeaten teams. I think that's exactly what they need.
Mm-hmm. All right, that's going to wrap it up for Tuesday practice from a very dark Howard Jones
Yeah.
field. For Dan Weber, I'm Keely Eure. For more, check out uscfootball.com.